It was a pretty normal day at an apartment complex in Tampa, Florida, but everything changed suddenly when something strange started happening in the parking lot. A man, who people later found out was a former Marine, was acting really weird. He was out there growling and barking like a dog, and even stabbing the ground with some sort of object. People who lived there were confused and a bit scared, not really sure if it was some sort of joke or if he needed help. A maintenance worker saw all this and didn't want to take any chances, so he called 911 for help. While everyone was trying to figure out what was going on, a couple of the property managers decided to drive over and check on the situation. They got in their golf cart and headed in the direction of the man, probably just wanting to talk to him and see if everything was okay. But as they got closer, the situation got a lot more serious, really fast. The man suddenly pulled out a gun and started firing shots right at the golf cart. The bullets hit the plastic window of the cart, and even though it could have been much worse, one of the managers did get hurt by bits of the broken plastic. It was just a minor injury, but everyone was shocked by how quickly things went from strange to dangerous. After that, the man ran off and locked himself inside a car nearby. When the police arrived, they tried talking to him, but he wasn't answering anyone. He was moving around inside the car, acting unpredictable, and even holding the gun under his chin at one point, making the situation even more tense and scary. Because nobody knew what he was going to do next, and with everyone's safety at risk, the SWAT team was called in. They surrounded the area and tried different ways to get him out safely. Eventually, they used some gas to try to force him out, and when that didn't work, they used a taser to finally get him under control. It was all over in less than an hour, but for everyone living there, it probably felt much longer. Luckily, nobody was killed, but the whole apartment community was left shaken by what they had just witnessed. After things finally calmed down, everyone wanted to know more about the man behind all this chaos. It turned out he was a 29-year-old who had just finished his time with the Marines and had only recently moved into the apartment complex. Most of the people who lived there hadn't really noticed him before or had any problems with him, so this behavior came as a total shock. People started to wonder what might have caused him to act out in such a strange and scary way. Some guessed that maybe he was dealing with some tough personal stuff or having trouble adjusting to life after leaving the military. It's not uncommon for people who've served in the armed forces to have a hard time when they come back to regular life. Things like stress, anxiety, or even more serious issues like PTSD can make everyday life really tough. Neighbors and staff said they hadn't seen any signs that he was violent before this day. There were no arguments, no complaints, just a quiet guy who kept to himself. That made the whole situation even more confusing for everyone. People who knew him or had seen him around said he never looked like someone who'd get into this kind of trouble. While police were handling the aftermath, they started looking into his background to see if there was anything that could explain what happened. They talked to neighbors, checked records, and tried to piece together what could have triggered such a sudden and dangerous outburst. But at that point, nobody really had any clear answers. What happened that day left a lot of people wondering how someone could go from being a quiet neighbor to causing so much panic and fear. It also made people think about how important it is to check in on folks who might be struggling, especially those who are going through big life changes, like finishing military service and starting over somewhere new. Once the man was safely in custody, the police started figuring out what charges he should face. It didn't take long to see that the situation was serious. He was accused of trying to hurt the property managers by firing at them, which meant he could be charged with attempted murder. He also fired a gun at their vehicle and ended up hurting one of the managers, even if it was just from the broken window. On top of that, he didn't listen to police and caused a big, dangerous scene, which could add even more charges. Law enforcement officers at the scene acted quickly and carefully to keep everyone safe. They knew the man was armed and might hurt himself or someone else, so they treated the situation as an emergency. The SWAT team worked together to make sure no one else got hurt, and they avoided using deadly force, which is never an easy decision in such a tense moment. Their goal was to calm things down and get the man the help he clearly needed. The sheriff later spoke about how proud he was of the way his team handled things. He pointed out that a really bad situation could have ended a lot worse if his officers hadn't stayed cool under pressure. Thanks to their training, nobody lost their life that day, and the community didn't have to go through an even bigger tragedy. After the arrest, the man was taken to jail to wait for his next court date. The police were also looking into whether he should have had a gun in the first place and if there were any other crimes involved. They were checking into every detail to make sure they understood what happened and why. As things moved forward, it was clear this wasn't just about one bad day. The police and the community wanted to make sure something like this wouldn't happen again. They talked about making sure people in tough situations can get help before things get out of control, especially if they might be dealing with mental health problems or struggling after a big change in their lives. After the chaos was over, a lot of people started thinking about what this all really means. not just for the man who was arrested, but for everyone else too. It brought up some big questions about how tough life can be for people coming out of the military, especially when they're dealing with things like stress, loneliness, or mental health struggles. Sometimes, folks who need support don't know where to turn or are too proud or scared to ask for help. Events like this make it clear that communities need to do more to look out for each other. It's important for friends, neighbors, and even apartment staff to notice when someone is having a hard time and offer support before things get this bad. Sometimes just checking in or talking to someone can make a huge difference. If you notice someone acting very differently or having a hard time, reaching out might help them feel less alone. It also showed how police and emergency teams have a tough job. They have to balance keeping people safe with trying to help someone who might be in crisis. This case could have ended a lot worse if the police had rushed in or used too much force, but their training and teamwork kept things from turning deadly. It's a reminder that it's not just about catching bad guys. Sometimes it's about protecting someone from themselves, too. People in the neighborhood are probably still shaken up and may feel nervous for a while. But stories like this can also lead to better understanding and changes that help everyone. It starts conversations about things like mental health, the challenges veterans face, and how to be more supportive to the people around us.